Bum, bum, bum.
Recording
Okay,
in progress.
so we're going to learn an amazing Sicha from Likutei Likutei Sichos on Parshas Noach, where the Rebbe connects, or actually brings a Zoyar, which the Zoyar is Primis HaTorah, so it explains the inner meaning behind everything. So things that are seemingly just an external matter, the inner meaning of it is revealed in the Zoyar, and he connects something that took place during the Mabul that seems to be during the flood. It was a negative thing. The Zohar reveals a deeper meaning to it in a very positive way. And that is the revelation of all the different types of chokhmas, all the different types of wisdom that's to be found in the world. These type of the chokhmas umas ha'olam, the Rebbe right away says, chas v'sholom, to learn from this, to go to college, that's off the table. But we're talking about the actual revelation, the world of these types of wisdom is actually a precursor and part of enabling us to relate to Moshiach's times. That's essentially what the Sikh is going to be about. Let us begin. In connection with the pasuk that speaks about the beginning of the Mabul, it says, in the year 600 of Noach's life, in other words, when Noach was in his 600th year, Nivku kol mayonos toim rabba v'arubas hashmayim niftachu, all the well springs of the deep and the openings of the heavens opened up, and they flooded the world with the Mabul. So on that pasuk, Isa B'Zoyar, it's brought down the Zoyar. B'shis meya shnin l'shisa yispatchun tari d'chachmasel la'ela, you soon get it translated in Hebrew, umabui d'chachmasel l'sata, v'yistakin alma la'ala b'shviyachul. So now in Hebrew he translates it, b'shonim asher mishesh me'eshana la'elef hashishi. In the years of the 600 century, or the 600 year of the 6,000, in other words, in the year of 5,500, in other words, within the 600th year, 5,500 and on, Yiftachu Sharei HaChochma L'mayla, the gates of wisdom above will open up, Umayonas HaChochma L'mata, and the well springs of wisdom down here will open up, Va'olam Yistakin, and the world will become repaired and fixed up, Kedei sheyuchal hikonnes la'elef hashvi, so it should be able to enter the 7th millennium, the time of Moshiach. The 7th millennium begins at the end of the 6,000 years. You enter into the 7th millennium. All of that preparation for Moshiach's times is starting from 5,500 and on the Jewish calendar. Now we're already 5,785. So in other words, about over 250 years ago begins the revelation of upper and lower wisdoms to prepare us for Moshiach's times. Now, what does this mean, upper wisdom and lower wisdom? And the explanation of both of these matters. The gates of the wisdom above, and the flow and the well springs of the wisdom below. These are both hinted in the above mentioned pasuk quoted from Parshas Noach. Nivku called Mayonis Toimarab, it says it split open all the well springs of the deep. That's what the Zohar says, Mabui the Chachmas L'sata, the springs of the wisdom of below, just like the well springs come from below up. Va'arubas hashemayim niftachu, and it says also that the windows of the heavens opened up. That's Tare de Chachmas L'Elo, that's the gates of the wisdom above. But we still haven't identified what are these two types of wisdom, the wisdom from below and the wisdom from above. The Chachma of above, that's the wisdom of the Torah. The Chachmas L'sata, and the wisdom of below, that's Chachmas HaOlam, the wisdom of the world, sciences, etc. We actually see, even though the Zohar was written many, many years ago, this is a clear and open prophecy. Dash Bizman Hanal, in the time beginning from 250 years, I misspoke, not 250 years, it's 5785, so it's about 280 years ago. That's when was his Galus Yiseda B'Chochmas HaTorah, was a greater revelation in the wisdom of the Torah. Which wisdom specifically was a greater revelation? His Galus Pnimius HaTorah. It was the revelation of the inner part of the Torah. And the Rebbe brings from a story of the Tzemach Tzedek, that it was brought down from the Alter Rebbe that the year Tov Reish Ches, which is 5,608, was a foretold end of times of Moshiach's coming. So when the Rebbe Marash or others asked him what happened with that foretold time, which I think came from the Alter Rebbe, so the Tzemach Tzedek explained, top of the second column, Sha'keit, the Bias HaMashiach, Shenemar Al Shnas Tov Reish Ches, the end of times, of the coming of Mashiach, that was said concerning the year 5,608, his Kayim Bekach was fulfilled in the fact that in that very year, the year of Tov Reish Ches, was printed the Sefer of Likutei Torah. What's the connection? That the uniqueness of the coming of Mashiach will be that will be fulfilled, that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. Where do you have the knowledge of Hashem? We have it in print in the Likutei Torah. A few years prior to that was printed the like introductory volume to Likutei Torah. Likutei Torah is primarily on the final three Chumashim, Bamidbar, Vayikra Bamidbar, and Dvarim. Torah is primarily on Chumash, Bereishis, and Shmos, and that was printed in the year 5,597. Only when the study of the inner part of the Torah is not in the way that it's written in the Zohar or some other Kabbalah texts, but it has to be learned and studied the way the Alter Rebbe explained the Mamarim that are transcribed in Likutei Torah and the Torah Oir. So then it becomes fulfilled what it says, that when they will become sustained by your book of the Zohar, meaning by the teachings of Primis HaTorah, sustenance is like food that enters the person and permeates the person. When does the teaching of the inner part of the Torah enter and permeate the person? That's when there is a full-fledged understanding with Chabad. Via Futzu minus Mayonis HaBaal Shem Tov. And also it's the time of the spreading of the well springs of Baal Shem Tov. She's Galus that the revelation of Baal Shem Tov was close to the year 500. Again, 5,500, we said, is the time when it started, the revelation of the Chochmas of above, of the wisdom of above. So just like from the year 5,500, when we went into the 5,600, 6th century, so then, just like then, it was revealed. The inner part of the Torah, the wisdom of above, so too, concurrently with it, was revealed a greater expansion and development in the wisdom of the worlds, of the nations of the world, etc. And he goes on to explain on the second page, how does this have anything to do with Moshiach then? But the Rebbe asks a question, this makes sense, the reason. that the revelation of the inner part of the Torah is a preparation to go up in the 7th millennium, to rise up in the Geulah of Moshiach, the revelation of Moshiach. Moving to it's understood. Like we mentioned before, since in the days of Mashiach, it will become the chiddush of that time will be that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, like waters covers the sea. Harimasin, it's appropriate. Shalifnei's manzeh, prior to this time, as a preparation for this, this Geulah pnimius HaTorah will be revealed, the inner part of the Torah, Shime'ein Torah shel Mashiach, that it's similar to the teaching of Mashiach. Avol eizoi shayches yesh bein ispatchus v'izgalus chachmas ha'olam bein halal b'shvua. What connection is there between the development and the revelation of the wisdom of the world, the sciences and so on, and the idea of going up higher in the 7th millennium? You say to Mizu, even more so, the question is, the very fact that in the Zohar, these two developments of revelation of the inner part of Torah and the development of the natural world sciences and so on, it's brought together. It's not just two separate ideas that the Zohar says. It's brought together in preparation for Mashiach's times. Moving, it's understood, sheyesh kesher v'yachs b'neim, that there's a connection and there's a relationship between them. Shezeh gufa sheschila oz isgalus chadasha b'chachmas HaTorah. Kachon l'mois Mashiach, the very fact that at that time there became a new revelation in the wisdom of the Torah as a preparation for Mashiach's times, so that also goram lispatchus chachmas ha'olam. This itself, the very revelation of the inner part of the Torah, the fact that the Baal Shem Tov was revealed, the fact that the Likutei Torah was printed, the fact that the Torah was printed, all these things are the true cause why there was such great strides and developments and revelations in the sciences. So the Rebbe obviously wants to know what's the connection. But we need to understand what is the connection between the two. The wisdoms of the world and the nations are incomparably lower than the wisdom of the Torah, which is La'ela, which is the one above. Ubefrat, how much even more so specifically when we're talking about Mepnimius HaTorah, the inner part of the Torah, is speaking about such sublime and holy things, and somehow or other you want to say these sublime and holy revelations of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe had an impact to bring about the revelation of the physical sciences. How can you even connect them? So to answer this, the Rebbe goes on in Beis, Olam kuloi, the entire world, al kol nimtza boy, in concerning everything that exists in it and is found in it, is like we have in the second Rashi in Parshas Bereishis that we read yesterday. Nivra b'shvil HaTorah b'shvil Yisrael. Everything in the world, every little smidgen of existence, whether it's in a far out galaxy or it's deep under the ocean, all was created for the sake of Torah, for the sake of Yidden. That's what the Rashi said. The Ben Chamish L'Mikra, he's told us right away. As the sages say, the Chazal say, everything that the Eibusher created in the world, he did not create it only for his glory. It serves no other purpose. Moving for this is understood. The ultimate perfect and completion of the intention that's in every created being is bekach, is by the fact that it's used through the Yidden for the service of Hashem. Just to give you a silly example, if a person had a computer and it's a nice little thing. It's maybe a nice piece of decoration, or maybe they can even put their cup of coffee on top of the computer, the box of the computer or something, or etc. It might look very nice, and the flashing lights and everything might make the room beautiful or whatever, but that's not the purpose for which the computer was made. The computer is made to compute on. And if you don't use it for that, if you use it for everything else, you have wasted its entire purpose. The same thing. There are a lot of great and wonderful benefits of all the things that exist in this world. But ultimately, everything in this world's purpose is to be used for the service of the Eibishter. So, if that is so concerning every single creature and every blade of grass and every star, and etc., etc., so too it's concerning also the wisdom of the worlds, the sciences, and so on. Top of the second column, the purpose in the development of the wisdom of the world is B'lashon Tanya, like the Tanya uses the expression in the Perek Ches at the end, that he says, Li'ishtamish b'hen la'avodas Hashem, it's meant to be used for the service of Hashem, or to be able to study his Torah. There is, let's say, a Rashi in Masechta Sukkah that explains pi. The mathematical idea of pi, to be able to explain fitting around Sukkah in a square Shiur, etc. There are parts of the sciences of math or whatever that are used in the study of Torah. Now, the Rebbe says, one needs to know that not everyone knows how to use it for Torah. So not everyone has the free rein to go ahead and spend their lives studying sciences just willy-nilly and just say, I'll use it for Torah study. No. Or I'll use it for the service of Hashem. It doesn't work that way. That's the Rebbe says now in the brackets. Since not every mind can handle this, not everybody's on a level that they know how to use out the sciences for the sake of Torah study or for the sake of the service of Hashem. The Alter Rebbe over there in Perek Ches and Tanya, where he speaks about the prohibition of learning sciences for itself because it's dvarim betelim and because it's metamtim, the Chabad shebenef shalakis. And he says, but unless you know to use it out for the service of Hashem, you know to use it out for its Torah, like Rambam, Maimonides, and Nachmanides, the Nachmanides, and their group of people that knew, and therefore they were able to be involved in the sciences because they knew how to apply these sciences and studies for the service of Hashem. L'chein, therefore, the Rebbe says that to devote one's life to studying science or taking time to study one's science is a davar shayach rak liyichides Geulah mesuganam. This is only applicable to unique and special individuals of this category, people of the Rambam and the Ramban's category. Someone that is not on the level that they know how to use it out for the service of Hashem or how to use it out in Torah, Adra, but just the opposite, like the Alter Rebbe says over there in Tanya, that studying science is in a way worse than just wasting time. Because in wasting time, a person only blemishes and it brings impurity on the midos and the emotional character traits of the nefesh halakis. But in studying the sciences for no purpose of the service of Hashem, this enclothes and it brings impurity to the level of Chachma bin Avdas of his godly soul. And then the Rebbe goes even further. Don't chas v'sholem chas v'chalila even think that this can what we spoke about and what we're going to speak about, the study of sciences as a preparation for Moshiach, that in any way, shape, or form, this means that a Jewish boy or girl may go to college. So the Rebbe is going to completely rule this out. So he says in Ois Gimel, last paragraph on the page, over here, it's of necessity to clarify. The Rebbe says that essentially this is something that's self-understood. I shouldn't even have to explain this, it's so obvious. L'chol hanal in kol shayches l'shaylas halimudim b'michlala in university of kiyotz b'zeh. All of the above that we're speaking about, how the sciences are a preparation for Moshiach's times, is not at all relevant to the question about going to study in college or university or similar types of institutions. Shebehem yeshna isur chomer v'sakana. Going to study in such institutions is a severe prohibition, and it's a danger. And Chazal say, v'chamira sakanta misura, danger is even more severe than something that's just prohibited. Why is it so terrible? Ki kol ha'avir v'hashkafa shel arba amas elu. The entire atmosphere and outlook of these 4 cubits, meaning b'moistus elu b'dereseinu elu, in these types of institutions, in our generations, chadurim b'kfira b'hashkacha pratish al Kadosh Baruch Hu. They're permeated with the denial of the divine providence of Hashem, that the whole underlying basis and premise for things that are taught in the university is she'ein shum davar koyach sheyachol is'arev b'hanagas olam v'chukav. It's taken as a given that there's nothing and no power that could interfere in the running of the world and the laws of nature. The inyan zaf miskabel kedavar hamuvim ma'elov she'etzarech raya. This is so self-understood that you don't even need proof. Ukiyasoid, and this is so foundational, and this is so axiomatic. Asher ein kol tzoydach laskira befedish l'chol limud hachachmas. There's no need to mention it explicitly to any type of study of the sciences. Nobody begins their class by saying God has no control over the world, or there's no way that the rules of nature can be broken. Nobody even has to say it. It's a given. It's accepted in any science class, in any type of class in university, and so on. In addition to that assumption, which is a total denial of Hashem's involvement in the world, on top of that, ubechelkam agodl, and in the majority of these universities, nilmodim limbudin minus, it studied all types of heretical types of teachings, and munas avodah zarah, pagan types of beliefs and worship, v'chulu, etc. The Rebbe emphasizes the word v'chulu, that he doesn't have to even list it. And therefore, uberubam kikulam, and the vast majority of them, on top of what we just now said, there's another problem. Gidrei habusha v'atznius nadarim. The whole idea of the definitions of embarrassment, having an idea of a sense of shame of how one is dressed and how one acts and speaks, v'atznius and modesty, these are completely lacking. Not only is it lacking, but if someone were to uphold the banner of modesty, until they scoff and they make fun of those that do consider modesty and such of a value and an imperative. And just the opposite, the more someone is immodest, the more they are held in greater esteem. As it's well known, the terrible state, the campus and on the campuses, in the dormitories, where they spend their free time. And there is no reason to speak at this shocking thing at length at all. And how, to the degree how terrible it is in specifics. So the Rebbe pointed out like 3 major problems and prohibitions and dangers to a Jewish man or woman that attends university. So the Rebbe says, many people are going to say, I'm strong enough in my Yiddishkeit, I don't have to worry. And concerning the well-known complaint that a person says that he or her, in other words, if it's a man or a woman, won't be hurt by it, and he will withstand all the challenges of being in such a immoral environment. It's well known, the obvious response to this. Even a complete tzaddik, in his final day of being 120 years upon this earth, already, when does he say the following? He says at the beginning of the day, before he davens. He begs Hashem, do not bring us to a test. And here you're saying, I can go. I'm strong enough, or my child is strong enough to withstand it. The biggest tzaddik says, and here the person throws themselves into the Nisayan. And the truth is, we really have to speak about this very, very much so. And this was a battle that the Rebbe fought strongly in the 50s and the 60s. And in the later years, it wasn't as common that people approached him about it, but this was a big battle that the Rebbe broke through, that people should not go to college. Sadly, I think we've seen this become degraded, but this is not the theme of the main theme of the Sichos. This is not the place to discuss this at length. So this was parenthetical, what's called in Hebrew a Maimer HaMuzgar. The Rebbe just wants to tell us nothing in the Sichos should be misconstrued, chas v'sholem v'chas v'chalila, to say that there is any heter and any reason for a man or woman to attend college. By the way, you will see that the Rebbe makes no distinction of age. He doesn't say, well, an adolescent, a teenager, a guy in his 20s, they're more impressionable. But I'd say a married adult, a person in their 60s, they're different. There's nowhere here where the Rebbe makes that distinction. Just a side point. Okay, let's get back to the point of the Sicha, that the Rebbe wants to know what is the comparison between the worldly knowledge with the knowledge of the inner part of the Torah, that both in tandem has to do with preparing and elevating the world towards Moshiach's times. So we're holding Ois Daled, second paragraph from the bottom of the first column. From the fact that the Zohar connects the development of the wisdom of the world to the preparation to go up on the seventh millennium, moving it's understood that the benefit of these types of sciences in the service of Hashem, it expresses itself in a matter that's a preparation for the novelty that will be in the times of Moshiach. And the Rebbe is going to explain what unique thing is going to take place when Moshiach comes, and based on that, we'll be able to understand how the sciences leads into that. One of the primary things that will come about in the days of Mashiach is Hayiyut, is the promise. That the glory of Hashem will become revealed, and all flesh will see together that the mouth of Hashem spoke. This means the revelation of godliness of the future time. It won't just be in a way that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. That's one level. But it's going to be greater than just knowledge. We're not just going to understand. We're not just going to know. But Ella gam ba'ofen shel v'ro kol basar. It'll be in a way that the eyes, the flesh will see. Sha'basar hagashmi yira kipi Hashem diber. That the physical flesh will see that the mouth of Hashem spoke. Top of the second column, koloimer. This means to say, There won't be just seeing with the spiritual eye, with the mind's eye, but also like the Mittler Rebbe speaks about at length in his sefer called Shara Munah, physical sight with the physical eye will see godliness. Just like I see the physical sefer in front of me. Actually, I'm looking at the electric safer in front of me, but I see my physical table, my physical desk, my physical computer with my physical eye. That's how I will see a Likusta, Mittler Rebbe says. And then it's a step further. Even more so, from the fact that it says that all flesh will see. Doesn't say all eyes of flesh will see. Similar to what we say in davening, that our eyes will see. It doesn't say that the eyes of flesh will see. Mashmet seems to indicate not just the physical eye will see, but also the physical flesh itself will see and recognize that the mouth of Hashem spoke. I believe I once saw an article, perhaps on Chabad.org, that to bring an example of this, that they have found, science has discovered ways for people who, chas v'sholom, don't have, their eyes don't work, that there's some type of thing that they connect to the tongue, and it reads signals so that through the tongue they're able to see. So we see that the power of sight doesn't have to be limited to the eyes. Very interesting. If I find it, maybe I'll send it out to the Shiur. That's the association between the development of the sciences to the preparation to go up in the 7th millennium. Because the using of the wisdom of the world for the service of Hashem or His Torah, it assists in the preparation to something that's similar to all flesh will see, that it's the physical sight, the sight of our senses, in matters of the service of Hashem. So the Rebbe brings an example in Hay. An example of this is one of the powers of nature. It was in existence from the beginning of creation, the 6 days of creation. It was fully in existence, but people didn't know of it. They just discovered it later on. And it was revealed and developed in latter years, who have showed us is the possibility that the voice of a person that's speaking in one location will immediately be heard at a distant location, until the edges of the earth, even that even they can be heard on the moon. They telephone, they say radio, through a telephone, or even more so through radio. And now lately it's even more so. Not only can you hear them, but you can even see the person and all the movements they're making. This possibility to hear every single sound that comes out from a person at that very moment that he utters it, b'chol katzvei teva, on all the ends of the globe, and to see it, etc. Nois and tzir mukshi lahavdol. It gives us a form, and it gives us a picture with our senses. Le'inyan ayin roye v'oizen shemas. For the idea that there's an eye that sees, in other words, Hashem sees, and there's an ear that hears. Va'adrab, not just that it's an example, and there's just something similar to this, But even more so, if the ear down here is capable through these different instruments of radio and telephone to hear immediately, and similarly the eye below can see immediately through the development of another natural power of being able to transmit pictures and movements and moving pictures. Is able to see what's going on in the ends of the earth. How much more so concerning the eye, the ear, and the eye of above, like we say in Tehillim, it's in Shiur Shel Yom, the one that plants ears in people, does he not hear? For sure he hears. The one who forms the eye, will he not look? Obviously he can look. So the same thing we could derive for Hashem, and even more so, that when it comes to the ear of above and the eye of above of Hashem, there are no limitations whatsoever. Our eyes and ears, even those that are enhanced through radio and so on, these are things that have certain limitations. And therefore, by Hashem, who is the ultimate one who can see and hear, it's therefore everything that a person does, even in the most hidden chambers within of chambers, in that very moment, mamish, the eye sees and the ear hears, and therefore all your actions are written down and transcribed in a book. There's a record kept of everything that goes on. Since a person has a tangible example of this, so his meditation on the matter that Hashem is standing over him, he's looking at him, and he is examining the person's innards and heart, if the person is serving him appropriately. This won't just be that a person comprehends it intellectually, and he comprehends it with a deep understanding of seichel. The nature of intellect, how deep it may be, doesn't always have a full influence on the person. He can know something intellectually, and it doesn't fully control his actions and his emotions. But by being aware of this from examples from our physical world, thanks to the sciences, so therefore the knowledge and awareness of Hashem be standing over us is it's in a manner that's closer to the physical feelings of a person, and therefore it's in such a way that it affects the emotions of the heart even more than if a person just understood it intellectually, until that this awareness that comes from seeing it in the physical world is something that influences the person's thought, speech, and deed, than if he wouldn't have had the discoveries that science made to bring this home to him. So now the Rebbe says that in truth, everything in the world was created for the service of Hashem, not just these type of developments. So the Rebbe says involved, last paragraph on the first column, Hagam shekol inyonei olam nivru b'shvil HaTorah b'shvil Yisrael. Though we, like the second Rashi in Chumash says, all the matters of the world was created for the sake of Torah, for the sake of Yidden, b'chol zeis matzino. Still in all we find, shetzienu chazal v'hivdilu inyonim misuyonim. Top of the second column. The Chazal pointed out and made a distinction of certain specific things. Bahadgisham, by emphasizing, shehem nivru ach v'rak kedei l'shtamish bahem le'inim mesuyim shel Torah mitzvahs, that these things were created only to be used for a specific thing of Torah mitzvahs, even though we said everything in the world was created for Yidden and the Torah. Ula Dugma, where do we find such a thing where the Chazal point out about a specific type of entity in the world which has a particular specific mission of Torah mitzvahs? So the Chazal say, Lo hoya olam roi lishtamech bezav, the world was unworthy to have this great gift of having gold. Gold was too precious, too special. The world was not supposed to have gold. Lama Nivra, why was gold created? Bishvil HaMishkan, Bishvil Beis HaMikdash. It was created for use in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. So then the question is, why, on the one hand, do we say everything in the world was created for the Yidden and the Torah? And then we have certain things that the Chazal point and say, you know why this was created? Isn't everything in the world created for the sake of Torah and mitzvahs? The difference between these particular things that the Chazal point out are specific for Torah mitzvahs versus just the rule that everything in the world was created for Torah and the Eden. Shar in Yoni Abriya, other matters of creation, though they were also created only for the sake of Torah and for the sake of Yidden, like we said, there is no other purpose. That is their purpose. The purpose of their creation could be fulfilled also when you actually use them in worldly purposes, not directly Torah mitzvahs. You're using it for permitted activities. From this itself eventually comes a benefit in the service of Hashem. He doesn't say that potatoes have to be used for mitzvahs. But since everything in this world was created for the sake of Torah and Yidden, if a person has potatoes, they need to use it in the cholent, so to be able to be mekayim the mitzvah of enjoying the Shabbos meal. Otherwise, if they're just eating the potatoes for its own sake, so it's not for fulfilling that thing of the Torah and Avodas Hashem. So that's the way it is in all of the creations. Then there are things that the Torah specifically points out, the spiritual, holy purpose. For example, concerning gold, it says that the world was unworthy to be used for gold. The usage of gold in worldly things is considered a descent, a lowering, a lessening of its purpose. The entire reason for the creation of gold was only for the sake that its usage should be entirely and completely for the needs of the Mishkan and the Mikdash. Since it's necessary that a person has free choice, therefore Hashem created the gold in such a way that you could use it also not for the sake of the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. But that is really not at all what the gold is about. So the Rebbe now applies that same idea concerning what it says, that in preparation for Moshiach's coming, all the great scientific strides and knowledge came down into the world. Meaning, of course you could use it in some other way. You know, if I have a microwave and it makes my breakfast cook faster, I can go do mitzvahs earlier instead of spending all the time cooking my food. But that's not the true purpose. The ultimate purpose is that by using the sciences and understanding and taking lessons from the sciences in such a way to make tangible Mashiach's times. Last paragraph on the page. So too, it's concerning our topic. The connection in the Zohar between the development of the sciences to the revelation of the inner part of the Torah and to rising up higher in the 7th millennium. From the very fact that the Zohar puts them together, that itself is a proof. That's the entire intention and purpose and meaning of its development. But we see that it's not necessarily used in that way. So again, just like gold is not necessarily used in the Beis HaMikdash, and the fact that one could use the benefit of these types of sciences for other matters, it's only because of the reason of free choice that Hashem wanted us to have free choice, so He allowed for it to be used in other means and ways. This means the very capability to derive from the wisdom of the world a benefit in the service of Hashem, similar to what we said before, that one recognizes how Hashem could be seeing him every moment what he's doing because of the way we could see what's going on across the world in a moment. It still is not fulfilled the true purpose in their development, because that's only a means to an end. That's like every other creation. The potato is a means to an end. A blade of grass might be a means to an end. That's not, when we're talking about the thing itself, is part of the development. Because if you're only deriving a lesson from the fact of the eye that sees and the ear that hears, from the fact that there is all of this, these are things that don't really, the thing itself is not a benefit. That from that is derived a certain and results from a permitted use, results a moral and a lesson in Avodas Hashem. Rather, Ella, the true intention of the development of the sciences is the usage of the wisdom of the world, the sciences itself, to matters of Torah mitzvahs. Not just I derive a lesson from it. Using a telephone itself is a matter of reshus, and I'm deriving a lesson that Hashem hears what I'm saying, what I'm doing, etc. That's the telephone itself, and the science behind the telephone is not something itself that's holy. It's a matter of reshus. Rather, we need to know how the telephone itself, the radio itself, the pictures itself, that itself is supposed to be used for the service of Hashem. But yes, and even more so, since the Zohar connects their development to the time of the revelation of the inner part of the Torah, we need to say, the main intention of this is using them out for the revelation and the spreading of the inner part of the Torah. The Zohar puts together the revelation of the inner part of the Torah and the revelation of the sciences. So that means these two things have to go together. The very sciences itself need to be vehicles for the spreading of the inner part of the Torah, which is all about Moshiach's times. And the Rebbe is going to go on to explain this. Zayin. The content of the novelty and uniqueness of the days of Moshiach is, like we explained before, in two aspects. That the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem like waters covers the sea. This itself, it's in such a manner that every flesh will see. Okay, all flesh will see. So too, and similar to, in this vein, is the novelty and the purpose in using the sciences for spreading the inner part of the Torah, that the inner part of the Torah is similar to the teachings of Moshiach, because through that becomes the revelation of the inner part of the Torah as a preparation for the Torah of Moshiach, in a manner, or at least similar to Shel Shnei Inyanim Hanal, of these two matters, that the earth is filled and all flesh will see. So the Rebbe is going to explain what does it mean that through the sciences, so now the spreading of the inner part of Torah, even at present, before Mashiach comes, has in it both components. The earth being filled and all flesh will see. An example of this is when one uses a radio for spreading the inner part of the Torah. Through that, the matter that's being studied in the inner part of the Torah is heard physically and in all ends of the earth. V'yiseirim is even more so. Divrei Chassidus on the modern b'radio choydrim b'chol ha'olam. The words of Chassidus that are learned on the radio are permeating the entire world. Afilu b'makim sheboy ein machshir radio sheyichletz t'koil. Even in some forlorn forest, jungle, desert, that there is no actual radio receiver. Ki yadu, as it's known, sha'akoil mispashid b'chol makim, that the radio waves, the sound waves of the radio, are actually going all over, b'chol katzvi table, throughout the ends of the earth. Not just potentially it could arrive there. It's actually located all over the world. And the receiver has the capability to only receive this sound that's being broadcast, and could manipulate it and change it, make it louder, make it quieter, or change the bass, the treble, the bass, etc. The receiver cannot create a new sound, a new radio wave. So what do we see from this? An amazing thing. V'nimtza comes out using the sciences in spreading the inner part of the Torah. We have, first of all, something similar to the earth being filled with the knowledge of Hashem, without any limitations. In every single place, the radio waves are there of the Shiur Chassidus that's being broadcast via the radio waves. Like we said before, whether or not there is a radio station there, whether or not there's a radio receiver there. It's in such a way that all flesh will see. The voice can be heard physically at that very moment, as long as you have the radio receiver. Even this, the Rebbe says, not yet the ultimate. Still, this is using the sciences for something other than the sciences. We're using it for Torah mitzvahs. While in the actual wisdom itself, if someone opens up a book or reads an article about radio waves, that itself is not going to be recognizable, its holy nature. The true union of the wisdom of the world and Torah is when in the sciences itself, it's visible and recognizable matters of the inner part of the Torah. So the Rebbe is not going to leave us hanging, and he's going to explain. Last paragraph on the page, that this matter is actually seen with our senses, where studying science manifests Torah and the inner part of the Torah. The inner part of Torah is out to reveal the pure, unadulterated, non-complex oneness of Hashem in the world. Despite the fact that there is a multitude of creations. This multiplicity is in no way contradictory to the pure oneness of Hashem. Shekain adrab, just the opposite. The great multiplicity that is so much is actually an expression of, at its core, there's a pure oneness. So the Rebbe says in the last page of the Maimer of the Sicha, since the true existence of the world is the pure oneness of godliness, therefore this oneness and unity express itself in the existence of the world itself. That if we look at the world through the lens of science, we see the idea of oneness. And this idea, the oneness and unity that's to be found in the world, that internally, it's the pure oneness of godliness. This idea of the theory of a unified theory of the entire world is something that's developing and becoming revealed as the sciences develop and go on. But over in the past, people thought every aspect of the natural laws and powers is something separate and distinct from something else. And the material of every existence in this world is combined and made up of a multiplicity of different elements. The more the sciences develop, the scientists are reaching to greater recognition. The multiplicity and the division that we see in the multiplicity of the universe is only in many different combinations of elements is only the external aspect of every existence. But in what manner the different parts are being combined, to what degree they are constricted, to what degree they are more expansive. And as science develops, they are decreasing the total of things that are different between different aspects of this world. Until the recognition that the point of existence of the world stands on the union of the two components of quantity and quality. There is the material that has the potential for the power, and there's the energy. I think what the Rebbe means over here is everything can be broken down into energy and mass, and that's it. Yes, it takes different forms and different elements, but that's what they're all about. True unity is only to be found in godliness and from the perspective of godliness. Therefore, the existence of the creation on its own is established on only the unity of two details. It can't be totally one, which is quality, quantity, and quality, again, mass and energy. That's the connection between the two, of the development of the wisdom of the nations, of the sciences, and the inner part of the Torah as a revelation, as a preparation that the world will be prepared for rising up in the 7th millennium. We said the revelation of the inner part of the Torah is the cause. That's why the secrets of sciences were revealed at the same time. Because through both of them becomes a similarity of the teaching of Moshiach. The teaching of Moshiach is revealing the unity and the oneness of Hashem in the world in such a manner that it's in a way that's similar that all flesh will see. That's how the sciences are revealed now. That the world itself becomes a vessel and a vehicle for the unity of Hashem. And the idea of the unity and oneness is visible in the world itself. And then it truly embeds itself in the heart of a person. This oneness that I see in the world, this unification theory I see in the world, is nothing other than the true and pure unity of godliness that is revealed to us in the inner part of the Torah. By Daisy, through that, the world becomes repaired and fixed up to go up in the 7th millennium speedily, mamish.